Good afternoon to all present today. And today we are getting inside Unit 3, a new unit, frequency response analysis in your control system subject. And probably after discussion of today's lecture, you'll be able to say or understand what is a frequency response, what is a sinusoidal transfer function, and what are all the frequency domain specifications are. So before getting inside the actual definitions, let us see what is the third unit says, what are all the uh, requirements or what is being provided in the syllabus in third unit. If you see that the third unit says that frequency response, it talks about frequency response, getting out the frequency response using two graphical methods, one is Bode and the other one is Polar, which helps you to determine the closed loop response from the open loop response. So you will be provided with G of S, H of S, and you are supposed to find what is the response of the system when it is connected in a closed loop. Okay, and you will be asked to know what is the correlation between frequency domain and time domain specification. So maybe in the previous unit, okay, in the second unit we have learned what is time domain specifications like rise time, peak overshoot, settling time, everything. So how are they related to some of the frequency domain specifications available? Okay, so we should know what is the correlation between them. Some relation is there. Okay, this is how we will go through the entire unit. And if you see, this Bode plot is very important considered uh, according to this unit actually. Why? Because if you know the fundamental about drawing a Bode, the magnitude and the phase response, which will help you in designing the compensators, lag, lead, and which is there in the unit 4, lag, lead, lead compensators using Bode. So this particular topic, Bode, okay, if you are familiar with this, you will be able to apply that in your fourth unit, and possibly you will be able to design a system according to the specifications provided. Uh, okay, which is called as compensated design, right? We will talk about that in the fourth unit, but the base is here. So kindly provide cautious uh, while you are listening to the classes. Please be cautious while we are dealing with Bode plots. Okay, let us start with what is frequency response analysis. So the response of a system, if you are supplied with a sinusoidal input, then you call that as a what you call it as a frequency response or sinusoidal response. Why you say it is a frequency response? A sinusoidal component is there which has a frequency inside it. And the frequency is denoted as omega or omega naught, depending upon what we are going to specify. So if you have a system like what is shown in the diagram, if you have a system, okay, and you are supplying an input, R of t is provided as R sin omega t, and you are receiving a response y of t, which is y sin omega naught t plus 5. So you can see that the magnitude y and the phase are the components which is available as the output stage. So you are supplying a sinusoidal wave or sinusoidal input, and you are getting another sinusoidal output actually in the variation in the amplitude, because you can see that the amplitude of the input is R and the frequency is omega naught. Okay, and here the amplitude is Y. You are getting the same frequency omega naught there, and with the phase factor or a phase shift. So y is the amplitude of the output sine wave, and phi is the phase shift of maybe it may be in degrees or radians as per the requirement of the system. So what is a sinusoidal response? Sinusoidal response, generally we say if your input is a sinusoidal wave or sinusoidal component present in that input, then probably your output will also have a resemblance of that. A sinusoidal component will be there supplied to a system, So probably we call that response as sinusoidal response. So the actual transfer function can be denoted as a sinusoidal transfer function by replacing S is equal to j omega. For example, you are having a g of s, h of s term. If you replace s with j omega, g of j omega, h of j omega can be called as the sinusoidal transfer function. The sinusoidal transfer function. Okay, so it's a frequency domain representation of the system. Okay, so generally this is the transfer function which is utilized in drawing a Bode or a polar plot, converting a given system in S domain into a sinusoidal transfer function, which is nothing but S is equal to j omega. If you replace S is equal to j omega and you are varying your frequency omega from 0 to some instant, probably at 2 pi, from 0 to 2 pi, or we say 0 to pi, whatever it is. So if you vary that omega value, the frequency is being varied. Accordingly, your y is going to vary and phi is going to vary. Y and phi will vary. So that variation can be captured if you draw a curve between omega or y versus omega. This is your magnitude plot, and phi versus omega is your phase plot. Using these graphs, you can comment about the dynamics of the system or analyze the system in frequency domain, capture the dynamics and the frequency domain specifications, comment about the system's character. So this is what happens actually in both your Bode as well as polar plot. So this slide provides you an idea about what is called as a sinusoidal transfer function and what is a frequency response. So a response obtained from the system by varying the frequency from 0 to another some value. It has some limit, okay, that frequency limit has to be applied. So when omega varies from 0 to 2 pi or pi or multiples of pi, whatever you say, you are able to get some variation in the magnitude as well as the phase. If you are able to capture that data and if you plot it, you will get a frequency response which may have two responses. One is magnitude and the other one is phase. Because it is a complex function, j omega is involved, you will have a real part and an imaginary part. And since you have a complex number, there is a possibility of always having a magnitude and a phase. So this slide will provide you the exact things what we have said. You can see that if you have an output y of s is equal to g of s and r of s is your input probably, or okay, don't worry about y of s, you can also make it a c of s, that is not an issue. C of s is equal to g of s into r of s. Now substitute s is equal to j omega, this is your sinusoidal transform, and it has a magnitude component. This particular g of j omega has a magnitude component and phase, both magnitude and phase. Same way this is also has a magnitude and phase, because input is also a sinusoidal input. So probably it may have a magnitude and a phase probably. And same way this is also a sinusoidal transfer function. It's a complex form. So it will also have a magnitude and phase. That is what is represented here. G of j omega, angle g of j omega, modulus of g of j omega, magnitude of g of j omega. So this is your magnitude component and this is your phase component. So there is a possibility of having a phase difference between input and output. That is what is denoted as phi, which is in the previous slide. So you can see that the same way this can be taken as magnitude. You combine these two. That's your magnitude component, and you combine these two. Since it is an angle, if you combine it, you have to add it. Okay, so this is your phase component. So the amplitude y is equal to r into g of j omega and phi is equal to g of j omega naught. So this is what we have been saying. Since it is a complex term which involves a sinusoidal function there, it has both magnitude variation as well as a phase change. And if you vary your frequency and are able to capture the dynamics both in terms of magnitude and the phase difference, then you can plot the responses, and from the responses you can obtain the frequency domain specifications, and finally you can comment about the system's performance or characters. Right. So if you have a closed loop system like this, let us take M of s is your closed loop system. Y of s by R of s is equal to G of s divided by 1 plus G of s H of s. This we already know that. Okay, since if you consider this is a negative feedback system, you have 1 plus G of s H of s, right? So now what is the next step? You have to substitute s is equal to j omega, then you will get G of j omega divided by 1 plus G of j omega H of j omega. The magnitude and phase of the sinusoidal is being provided like this. So I can write this as real part of this and imaginary part of this, which can be directly written as modulus of G of j omega is the magnitude part, and this is my phase. So the gain or magnitude and the phase characteristics of the closed loop system can be determined from the open loop transfer function as well as the loop transfer function G of s H of s. So how it is been done in practical? They normally apply sine wave inputs to the input system and sweeping the frequency 0 to a value beyond the frequency range of the system. You should know the stability limit. You should know the system's limit, how far it can respond. So some value, frequency value applied, okay, beyond that limit and capturing the dynamics of the system will probably give you the information about the characters of the system. So this is the frequency response of a closed loop system. So you can capture the dynamics of the closed loop system by taking and supplying input to the open loop transfer function. That's the major advantage of these plots, Bode, Polar, and probably Nyquist, which we are going to discuss in the 4th unit, stability analysis. So you take your open loop transfer function, apply the change in omega from 0 to any value beyond the limit of the omega value of that particular system, then capture every change in the magnitude and phase for the provided input and variation in the frequency, then you can plot it, finally get the results, and that resembles the characters of the closed loop system. Right. So that's it about the fundamentals of what is frequency response analysis. Some characters of a system cannot be obtained from your time domain specifications. So we go for frequency domain, and time domain specifications, what we have discussed in the 2nd unit, is most probably depending on the input of the particular system. We normally focused on 2nd order system, particularly for step response, and again so particular in underdamped systems. And now we will be dealing with some other methodology in getting out the characters of the system through some other specifications. We call these as frequency domain specifications, and the performance of the system and its characters can also be analyzed and commented based on the frequency domain specifications also. So what are the frequency domain specifications? We are going to discuss. The first one is resonant peak. This is similar to that of the maximum peak overshoot. The resonance frequency, the frequency at which the resonant peak occurs, is called as resonant frequency. We will see the definition separately. Third one is the bandwidth, the range of the frequency within which the system provides a better response. Then cutoff rate. The most important two things, gain margin and phase margin, through which your stability can be analyzed. And also we have something called as gain crossover frequency and phase crossover frequency, which is also available. That we will discuss about when we are dealing with Bode and Polar, right? So these 6 are the main frequency domain specifications what we are going to discuss. The first one is resonance resonant peak. So the maximum value of the magnitude of your closed loop transfer function is denoted as a resonant peak, and the large resonant peak corresponds to a large overshoot in transient response. That is why I said this is equivalent to the maximum peak overshoot which is discussed in your time domain specifications, MP. So this is the maximum value of the amplitude M, and it is denoted or indicates the measure of the relative stability. How far the system is relatively stable for the given input. The large value of MR or the resonant peak is associated with the large overshoot in transient input response. The recommended value of MR will be between the range of 1.1 to 1.5 for any closed loop system. We mostly derived this formula from for a second order system for a sinusoidal input, most probably. So this is the resonant peak formula. MR is equal to 1 by 2 zeta square root of 1 minus zeta squared. If people remember, I can write MP is equal to e power minus zeta pi divided. Just a minute. I have a problem in the pen, I hope so. Yes, now it is okay. Minus zeta pi by square root of 1 minus zeta squared. You can see that this peak overshoot in time domain, this is a time domain specification. Which is called as peak overshoot. Okay. Now you can also see that this particular MP, maximum peak overshoot, is involved, okay, or it is depending only on zeta factor. What is that zeta? Damping factor. The same way, this resonant peak is also depending upon zeta factor, the resonant damping factor. That is how the correlation comes there. So the resonant peak is equivalent to peak overshoot in time domain. The resonant peak in frequency domain specification is equivalent to the peak overshoot in time domain specification. So 1 by 2 zeta into square root of 1 minus zeta squared. So what is resonant frequency? The frequency at which your maximum peak occurs. That is the resonant peak frequency occurs. So the frequency at which the resonant peak occurs is called the resonant frequency omega r. This is related to the frequency of oscillation in the step response. It provides you an idea about the speed of the transient response. So the formula for the resonant frequency omega r is equal to omega n into 1 minus 2 zeta squared. We can resemble omega d, which is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta squared in time domain. This is the frequency of oscillation. Okay. So this is your resonant frequency, the frequency at which the maximum value of your system response, you obtain the maximum value of the system response. You call that frequency as maximum resonant frequency. Okay, then what is bandwidth? It is the range of frequency for which the normalized gain of the system is more than minus 3 decibel. This minus 3 decibel comes there because we normally take 0.707 of the final value of the magnitude, which is equal to 1 by square root of 2. If you take logarithm of for that, you will get this minus 3 decibels. And the frequency at which the gain is minus 3 decibel is called the cutoff frequency. So this bandwidth is usually defined for a closed loop system. Okay, and it provides the signals whose frequencies are less than the cutoff frequencies. So the bandwidth is again a measure of the ability of the feedback system to reproduce the input signal, or we can obtain the noise rejection characters and rise time, etc. So the bandwidth of the system should be large actually to get a small rise time or a faster response. So it is advisable to have a larger bandwidth for a given system. and it is denoted as omega b, which is equal to omega n into 1 minus 2 zeta square plus square root of 2 minus 4. This probably can be obtained by applying this minus 3 decibel value in your second order base transfer function. So this is your bandwidth. So it is providing you an idea about the character of the system. In what way? In your transient part. That is faster response, rise time is more. Okay, that you can correlate. That you can correlate. Then comes your cutoff rate. As we in the previous set itself, we have said what is cutoff rate or cutoff frequency. This is the slope of the log magnitude curve near the cutoff frequency, which is called as the cutoff rate. It indicates the ability of the system to distinguish the signal from the noise, which is noise and which is the actual signal can be distinguished from the cutoff rate. We know the cutoff frequency, then we can able to know, we can only allow, because this is a very important character in designing filters, bandwidth and cutoff frequencies. If you know the cutoff frequency, then you can choose or design a filter based on the cutoff frequency. So it's a very important frequency domain specification. Then comes the most important two more specifications from where your stability can be commented. Always you say this one, the first one is gain margin, the second one is phase margin. This gain margin provides you the value how far you can vary the gain to make your system to be inside your stable limit. The variation of the gain value will probably changes the dynamics of the system, and what should be the maximum value of the gain so that your system remains inside the stability limits, and that is called as the gain margin. It provides you the marginal value of the gain. At some stage, if you vary your gain value or frequency value, your system tries to move towards the unstable region. Okay, you have to identify that point and you should not go beyond that frequency limit, because your system will become unstable. That particular margin is called as gain margin, and in your plots, the gain margin is provided as like this one: kg is equal to 1 by g of j omega pc, where omega is the phase crossover frequency. At what time your magnitude value will be equal to that of the same as that of your 180 degree phase shift value. So what we normally do, the frequency at which the phase of the open loop transfer function is 180 degree, you call it as phase crossover frequency. You try to analyze that particular, you try to find the value at that case and extend the same to find the similar value in your magnitude response from your phase response. You will try to understand that when you are dealing with the plots. So gain margin will provide you an idea about the verge of the stability, where what is the limit after which your system goes to the unstable region. Okay, that can be decided by gain margin. That can be obtained using kg is equal to 1 by g of j omega pc, where pc is your phase crossover frequency, where phase crossover frequency is for a transfer function. If you apply a frequency at which 180 degree is obtained, we call that as phase crossover frequency. Your phase plot has to reach 180 degree value. For what value of omega it is going to reach 180 degree is called as that frequency is to be phase crossover frequency. The same way, this is phase margin. That is gain margin. This is phase margin. How far your phase can be varied when you change your omega value to make your system to remain inside your stable limits. And generally, this is represented by the formula gamma is equal to 180 plus 5gc, where 5gc is the angle at the gain crossover frequency. What is gain crossover frequency? It is a frequency at which the magnitude is 0. That is your logarithmic scale. If you plot it, your 0 decibels, and your magnitude will be represented in decibels, and your phi or angle is represented in degrees generally. Your omega will be varied from will be in terms of radians per second, not in hertz. Okay, so for the system to be in stable, both your gain margin and phase margin should be positive, should be greater than 0. Your gain margin and phase margin should be greater than 0 to make your system to be stable. if your gain margin is found to be infinite, because you cannot say that all the time you will get omega value changing in such a way that it reaches the phase plot reaches 180 degree. It will not actually. It depends upon the transfer function. Okay, if your complex term has some pole or the location of poles which provides you a phase limit of crossing out 180 degree, okay, that is possible. But if you are not having having such a transfer function, okay, your gain margin will leads to infinite. Your gain margin leads to infinite, and if you have an infinite value for gain margin, you say it is highly stable. Okay, that these things will be discussed in the while you are dealing with Bode plot and polar plot. I hope okay, we have ended with the discussion. The first thing is we have introduced you what is a frequency response, what is sinusoidal response, then what is how to find the magnitude response and phase response of any frequency domain frequency transfer function or sinusoidal transfer function, and how can you apply a frequency response for a closed loop system, that also is being discussed. Then finally we have gone for discussing about frequency domain specifications. Each frequency domain specification is somewhat related to your time domain specifications. That is what we call it as correlation between frequency and time domain specifications. So we have obtained resonant peak is equal to the maximum peak overshoot, and from bandwidth, cutoff rate, resonant frequency and all, you will be able to capture the dynamics like transient rise time, transient response, speed of response, etc. And this cutoff rate and bandwidth will provide you help you in designing a filter. Probably, if you want, you should know what is the maximum frequency you can vary. That can be obtained using bandwidth rate and cutoff rate. Your bandwidth has to be very large to maintain a very faster response. And in time domain, your time constant decides the speed of response. Here, your bandwidth should be very large to make your system to respond faster. That is, your rise time will be faster. Your settling time will also be faster. Then comes your gain margin, phase margin. To make your system to be stable, your gain margin, phase margin should be positive. So with this, I think I can wind up today's class. Thank you for joining the class. Thank you very much.